A list of American museums by state, phone numbers, no websites. Chapter 1. A list of United States museums by state, no websites. Alabama. Auburn, Jewel Collins Smith Museum at Auburn University, 334-844-1484. Birmingham, Abrams Engel Institute for Visual Arts, 205-975-6436. Birmingham, Birmingham Museum of Art, 205-254-2566. Decatur, Carnegie Visual Arts Center, 256-341-0562. Gadsden, Gadsden Museum of Art, 256-546-7365. Huntsville, the Huntsville Museum of Art, 256-535-4350. Mobile, Center for the Living Arts, 251-208-5671. Mobile, Mobile Museum of Art, 251-208-5200. Montgomery, Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts, 334-240-4333. Northport, Kentucky Museum, 205-758-1257. Alaska. Anchorage, Alaska Museum of Science and Nature, 907-274-2400. Haines, Sheldon Museum and Cultural Center, 907-766-2366. Valdez, Valdez Museum and Historical Archive, 907-835-2764. Arizona. Camp Verde, Verde Valley Archaeology Center, 928-567-0066. Flagstaff, Museum of Northern Arizona, 928-774-5211. Nogales, Hilltop Gallery, 520-287-5515. Phoenix, Heard Museum, 602-252-8848. Sedona, Sedona Arts Center, 928-282-3809. Sedona, Sedona Heritage Museum, 928-282-7038. Tucson, Tucson Museum of Art, 520-624-2333. Arkansas. Bentonville, Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, 479-418-5700. El Dorado, South Arkansas Arts Center, 870-862-5474. Fort Smith, Fort Smith Regional Art Museum, 479-784-2787. Little Rock, Arkansas Arts Center, 501-372-4000. California. Anaheim, Museo Museum and Cultural Center, 714-956-8936. Bakersfield, Bakersfield Museum of Art, 661-323-7219. Bakersfield, Kern County Museum, 661-852-5000. Benicia, Arts Benicia, 707-747-0131. Berkeley, Berkeley Art Center, 510-644-6893. Berkeley, UC Berkeley Art Museum number 510-642-0808. Berkeley, UC Botanical Garden at Berkeley, 510-643-2755. Coronado, Coronado Museum of History and Art, 619-436-7242. Danville, Museum of the San Ramon Valley, 925-837-3750. Davis, Davis Arts Center, 530-756-4100. Davis, UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden, 530-752-4880. Encinitas, Lux Art Institute, 760-436-6611. Eureka, Clark Historical Museum, 707-443-1947. Eureka, Morris Graves Museum of Art, 707 559-442-0278. Fresno, Fresno Art Museum, 559-441-4221. Fullerton, Fullerton Museum Center, 714-738-6545. Guadalupe, Guadalupe Nipomo Dunes Center, 805-343-2455. Hayward, Hayward Area Historical Society, 510-581-0223. Healdsburg, Healdsburg Museum and Historical Society, 707-431-3325. Homewood, Tahoe Maritime Museum, 530-525-9253. Indio, Coachella Valley History Museum, 760-342-6651. Jamestown, Railtown 1897 State Historic Park 209-984-3953. La Jolla, Museum of Contemporary Art San Diego, 858-454-3541. Laguna Beach, Laguna Art Museum, 949-494-8971. Lancaster, Lancaster Museum of Art and History, MOAH, 661-723-6000. Long Beach, Long Beach Museum of Art, 562-439-2119. Long Beach, Earl Burns Miller Japanese Garden, CSU Long Beach, 562-985-8885. Long Beach, Museum of Latin American Art, MOLAA, 562-437-1689. Los Angeles, Chinese American Museum, 213-485-8567. Los Angeles Craft and Folk Art Museum, 323-937-4230. Los Angeles, Japanese American National Museum, 213-625-0414. Los Angeles, LA Plaza de Cultura y Arts, 888-488-8083. Los Angeles, Los Angeles Contemporary Exhibitions, 323-957-1777. Los Angeles, Museum of Contemporary Art, MoCA, Los Angeles, 213-621-1794. Los Angeles, Skirball Cultural Center, 310-440-4500. Los Gatos, New Museum Los Gatos, NUMU, 408-354-2646. Monterey, Monterey Museum of Art, 831-372-5477. Napa, De Rosa, 707-226-5991. Newport Beach, Orange County Museum of Art, 949-759-1122. Novato, Marin Museum of Contemporary Art, 415-506-0137. Oakland, Oakland Museum of California, 510-318-8400. Oakland, Pro Arts, 510-763-4361. Oceanside, Oceanside Museum of Art, 760-435-3720. Ojai, Ojai Valley Museum of History and Art, 805-640-1390. Oxnard, Carnegie Art Museum, 805-385-8157. Palm Springs, Palm Springs Art Museum, 760-325-7186. Palo Alto, Pacific Art League, 650-321-3891. Palo Alto, Palo Alto Art Center, 650-329-2366. Pasadena, USC Pacific Asia Museum, 626-449-2742. Pasadena, Pasadena Museum of California Art, PMCA, 626-568-3665. Pasadena, Pasadena Museum of History, 626-577-1660. Petaluma, Petaluma Historical Library and Museum, 707-778-4398. Pomona, American Museum of Ceramic Art, 909-865-3146. Redwood City, San Mateo County History Museum, 650-299-0104. Richmond, Richmond Art Center, 510-620-6772. Riverside, Riverside Art Museum, 951-684-7111. Roseville, Blue Line Arts, 916-783-4117. Roseville, Maidu Museum and Historic Site, 916-774-5934. Sacramento, California Automobile Museum, 916-442-6802. Sacramento, the California Museum, 916-653-7524. Sacramento, California State Railroad Museum, 916-445-6645. Sacramento, Crocker Art Museum, 916-808-1865. Sacramento, Sacramento History Museum, 916-808-7059. Sacramento, Verge Center for the Arts, 916-448-2985. San Bernardino, RAFMA, 909-537-7373. San Clemente, Surfing Heritage Foundation, 949-388-0313. San Diego, Junipero Serra Museum, 619-232-6203. San Diego, Mingay International Museum, 619-239-0003. San Diego, the Museum of Photographic Arts, 619-238-07559x202. San Diego, San Diego Automotive Museum, 619-231-2886. San Diego, San Diego History Center, 619-232-6203. San Diego, the San Diego Museum of Art, 619-232-7931. San Diego, Timken Museum of Art, 619-239-5548. San Diego, Visions Art Museum, Contemporary Quilts and Textiles, 619-546-4872. San Francisco, Asian Art Museum, 415-581-3740. San Francisco, California Historical Society Museum, 415-357-1848. San Francisco, Fine Arts Museum, De Young Museum, 415-750-3600. San Francisco, Fine Arts Museums, Legion of Honor, Lincoln Park, 415-750-3600. San Francisco, Museum of Craft and Design, 415-773-0303. San Francisco, San Francisco Women Artists Gallery, 415-440-7392. San Francisco, the Walt Disney Family Museum, 415-345-6800. San Francisco, Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, 415-978-2787. San Jose, San Jose Institute of Contemporary Art, 408-283-8155. San Jose, San Jose Museum of Art, 408-271-6840. San Jose, San Jose Museum of Quilts and Textiles, 408-971-0323. San Rafael, Marin History Museum, 415-454-8538. Santa Ana, Bowers Museum, 714-567-3600. Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara Historical Museum, 805-966-1601. Santa Barbara, Museum of Contemporary Art, Santa Barbara, 805-966-5373. Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara Museum of Art, 805-963-4364. Santa Clara, Decisat Museum, 408-554-4528. Santa Clara, Triton Museum of Art, 408-247-3754. Santa Paula, Museum of Ventura County's Agriculture Museum, 805-525-3100. Santa Rosa, Charles M. Schultz Museum, 707-579-4452. Santa Rosa, Sonoma County Museum, 707-579-1500. Sonoma, Sonoma Valley Museum of Art, 707-939-7862. Stanford, Cantor Arts Center at Stanford University, 650-723-4177. Stockton, the Hagen Museum, 209-940-6330. Turlock, Carnegie Arts Center, 209-632-5761. Ukiah, Grace Hudson Museum and Son House, 707-467-2836. Ventura, Museum of Ventura County, 805-653-0323. Woodland, Heydrich AG History Center, 530-666-9700. Yountville, Napa Valley Museum, 707-944-0500. Colorado. Aspen, Aspen Art Museum, 970-925-8050. Boulder, Boulder History Museum, 303-449-3464. Boulder, Boulder Museum of Contemporary Art, 303-443-2122. Boulder, CU Art Museum, University of Colorado at Boulder, 303-492-8300. Colorado Springs, Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center, 719-634-5581. Denver, Molly Brown House Museum, 303-832-4092. Denver, Museum of Contemporary Art Denver, 303-298-7554. Durango, Durango Arts Center, 970-259-2606. Fort Collins, Fort Collins Museum of Art, 970-482-2787. Georgetown, Historic Georgetown, Inc. Hamel House Museum, 303-569-2840. Golden, Foothills Art Center, 303-279-3922. Golden, Golden History Museums, 303-278-3557. Grand Junction, Western Colorado Center for the Arts, The Art Center, 970-243-7337x2. Leadville, National Mining Hall of Fame and Museum, 719-486-1229. Connecticut. Hartford, Connecticut Historical Society, 860-236-5621. Hartford, the Mark Twain House and Museum, 860-247-0998. Hartford, the Wadsworth Atheneum Museum of Art, 860-278-2670. New Britain, New Britain Museum of American Art, 860-229-0257. New Haven, Yale Peabody Museum of Natural History, 203-432-5050. Ridgefield, the Aldrich Contemporary Art Museum, 203-438-4519. Storrs, the William Benton Museum of Art, University of Connecticut, 860-486-4520. Waterbury, Mattituck Museum, 203-753-0381. West Hartford, Noah Webster House and West Hartford Historical Society, 860-521-5362. Delaware. Dover, Biggs Museum of American Art, 302-674-2111. Wilmington, Delaware Center for the Contemporary Arts, 656-6466. Wilmington, Hagley Museum and Library, 302-658-2400. Winterthur Museum and Country Estate, 800-448-3883, 302-888-4600. District of Columbia, Washington. The American University Museum, 202-885-1300. Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens, 202-686-8500. Historical Society of Washington, D.C., 202-249-3955. International Arts and Artists Hillier Arts Space, 202-338-0680. Lillian and Albert Small Jewish Museum, 202-789-0900. The Krieger Museum, 202-337-3050. The Phillips Collection, 202-387-2151. National Museum of Women in the Arts, 202-783-5000, 800-222-7270. The George Washington University Museum and the Textile Museum, 202-994-5200. Tudor Place Historic House and Garden, 202-965-0400. Florida Museums. Anna Maria Island Historical Museum, 941-778-0492. Boca Raton Museum of Art, 561-392-2500. Bradenton, South Florida Museum and Bishop Planetarium, Inc., 941-746-4131. Clewiston, Ottaudichike Museum at Big Cypress, 877-902-1113. Coral Gables, Low Art Museum / University of Miami, 305-284-3535. Cortez, Florida Maritime Museum, 941-708-6121. Daytona Beach, Museum of Arts and Sciences, 386-255-0285. DeLand, Museum of Art, DeLand, Florida, 386-734-4371. Dunedin Fine Art Center, 727-298-3322. Eustis, Lake Eustis Museum of Art, 352-483-2900. Fernandina Beach, Amelia Island Museum of History, 904-261-7378. Fort Lauderdale, NSU Museum of Art Fort Lauderdale, 954-525-5500. Fort Myers, Edison and Ford Winter Estates number 239-334-7419. Fort Myers, Sydney and Burn Davis Art Center, 239-333-1933. Fort Pierce, AE. Bacchus Museum of Art, 772-465-0630. Gainesville, Harn Museum of Art, 352-392-9826, extension 154. Hollywood, Ottaudichike Museum at Ocala, 954-797-5570. Hollywood Art and Culture Center, 954-921-3274. Jacksonville, Cummer Museum of Art and Gardens, 904-356-6857. Jacksonville, Museum of Contemporary Art Jacksonville, 904-366-6911. Jacksonville Beaches Museum and History Park, 904-241 5657. Kissimmee, Osceola County Pioneer Village and Museum, 407-396-8644. Lakeland, Polk Museum of Art, 863-688-7743. Melbourne, Fussainer Art Museum, 321-242-0737. Miami, History Miami, 305-375-1492. Miami, Institute of Contemporary Art, Miami, 305-901-5272. Miami, Perez Art Museum Miami, 305-375-3000. Miami, the Patricia and Philip Frost Art Museum, 305-348-2890. Miami Beach, Base Museum of Art, 305-673-7530. Miami Beach, the Wolfsonian Few, 305-531-1001. Mount Dora, Modernism Museum Mount Dora, 352-385-0034. Mount Dora Center for the Arts, 352-383-0880. Naples Art Association at the Von Liebig Art Center, 239-262-6517. Naples, the Baker Museum, Artis Naples, 239-597-1111. Naples, the Revs Institute for Automotive Research, Inc., 239-687-7387. North Miami, Museum of Contemporary Art, North Miami, 305-893-6211. Ocala, Appleton Museum of Art, 352-291-4455. Orlando, Art and History Museums, Maitland, 407-539-2181. Orlando, Manello Museum of American Art, 407-246-4278. Orlando, Orange County Regional History Center, 407-836-8500, 800-965-2030. Orlando Museum of Art, 407-896-4231. Ormond Beach Memorial Art Museum and Gardens, 386-986-9567. Osprey, Historic Spanish Point, 941-966-5214. Palmetto, Manatee County Agricultural Museum, Inc., 941-721-2034. Pensacola Museum of Art, 850-432-6247. Ponte Vedra Beach, the Cultural Center at Ponte Vedra Beach, 904-280-0614. Punta Gorda, Visual Arts Center, 941-639-8810. Quincy, Gadsden Arts Center, 850-875-4866. Sanibel Island, the Bailey Matthews National Shell Museum, 239-395-2233. Sarasota, the John and Mabel Ringling Museum of Art, 941-359-5700. St. Petersburg, the Dolly Museum No. 727-823-3767. St. Petersburg, Florida Craft Art, 727-821-7391. St. Petersburg, Florida Holocaust Museum, 727-820-0100. St. Petersburg, Great Explorations Children's Museum, 727-821-8992. St. Petersburg, Museum of Fine Arts, 727-896-2667. Tallahassee, Goodwood Museum and Gardens, 850-877-4202. Tallahassee, Lemoyne Center for the Visual Arts, 850-222-8800. Tampa, Florida Museum of Photographic Arts, 813-221-2222. Tampa Bay History Center, 813-228-0097. Tampa Museum of Art, 813-274-8130. Tarpon Springs, Leeperatner Museum of Art, 727-712-5762. Tequesta, Lighthouse Art Center Museum, 561-746-3101. Vero Beach Museum of Art, 772-231-0707. Georgia. Albany, Albany Museum of Art, 229-439-8400. Athens, Georgia Museum of Art / University of Georgia, 706-542-4662. Atlanta, the William Bremen Jewish Heritage Museum, 678-222-3700. Atlanta, High Museum of Art, 404-733-4400. Atlanta, Michael C. Carlos Museum, 404-727-4282. Atlanta, the Museum of Contemporary Art of Georgia, 404-367-8700. Atlanta, Museum of Design Atlanta, 404-979-6455. Atlanta, National Center for Civil and Human Rights, 404-991-6970. Atlanta, National Museum of Decorative Painting, 404-351-1151. Augusta, Augusta Museum of History, 706-722-8454. Beaufort, Gwinnett Environmental and Heritage Center, 770-904-3504. Columbus, the Columbus Museum, 706-748-2562. Columbus, National Civil War Naval Museum, 706-327-9798. Macon, Tubman African American Museum, 478-743-8544. Pooler, National Museum of the Mighty 8th Air Force, 912-748-8888. St. Simons Island, Glen Art Association, 912-638-8770. Savannah, Telfair Museum of Art, 912-790-8800. Thomasville, Pebble Hill Plantation, 229-227-5382. Hawaii. Honolulu, Hawaiian Mission Houses Historic Site and Archives, 808-447-3910. Volcano, Volcano Art Center, 808-967-8222, Office, 808-967-7565, Gallery. Idaho. Boise, Boise Art Museum, 208-345-8330. Idaho Falls, the Art Museum of Eastern Idaho, 208-524-7777. Illinois. Bloomington, McLean County Arts Center, 309-829-0011. Champaign, Cranard Art Museum, 217-333-1861. Chicago, the Richard H. Driehaus Museum, 312-482-8933. Chicago, Intuit, the Center for Intuitive and Outsider Art, 312-243-9088. Chicago, Loyola University Museum of Art, Luma, 312-915-7600. Chicago, the Oriental Institute, 773-702-9507. Chicago, Smart Museum of Art, University of Chicago, 773-702-0200. Elmhurst, Elmhurst Art Museum, 630-834-0202. Evanston, the Mary and Lee Block Museum of Art, 847-491-4001. Evanston, Mitchell Museum of the American Indian, 847-475-1030. Mt. Vernon, Cedarhurst Center for the Arts, 618-242-1236. Peoria, Peoria Riverfront Museum, 309-686-7000. Urbana-Champaign, Spurlock Museum, 217-333-2360. Vernon Hills, Cuneo Mansion and Gardens, 847-362-3042. Indiana. Fort Wayne, Fort Wayne Museum of Art, 260-422-6467. Lafayette, Art Museum of Greater Lafayette, 765-742-1128. Michigan City, Lubeznik Center for the Arts, 219-874-4900. Muncie, Minnetrista, 765-282-4848. South Bend, South Bend Museum of Art, 574-235-9102. Terre Haute, Swope Art Museum, 812-238-1676. Iowa. Cedar Rapids, African American Museum of Iowa, 319-862-2101. Cedar Rapids, Cedar Rapids Museum of Art, 319-366-7503. Cedar Rapids, National Czech and Slovak Museum and Library, 319-362-8500. Davenport, Fig Art Museum, 563-326-7804. Des Moines, Des Moines Art Center, 515-277-4405. Dubuque, Dubuque Museum of Art, 563-557-1851. Iowa City, University of Iowa Museum of Art, 319-335-1725. Okoboji, Pearson Lakes Art Center, 712-332-7013. Sioux City, Sioux City Art Center, 712-279-6272. Spencer, Arts on Grand, 712-262-4307. Waterloo, Waterloo Center for the Arts, 319-291-4490. Kansas. Independence, Independence Historical Museum and Art Center, 620-331-3515. Lawrence, Spencer Museum of Art, The University of Kansas, 785-864-4710. Manhattan, Mariana Kistler Beach Museum of Art, 785-532-7718. Wichita, Dulrich Museum of Art, 316-978-3664. Wichita, Wichita Art Museum, 316-268-4921. Kentucky. Bowling Green Historic Rail Park and Train Museum, 270-745-7317. Bowling Green, National Corvette Museum, 270-781-7973. Cadiz, Janice Mason Art Museum, 270-522-9056. Covington, Beringer Crawford Museum, 859-491-4003. Lexington, University of Kentucky Art Museum, 859-257-5716. Louisville, Asia Institute, Crane House, 502-635-2240. Louisville, Fraser History Museum, 502-753-1688. Louisville, Speed Art Museum, 502-634-2700. Paducah, Yeazer Art Center, 270-442-2453. Paris, Hopewell Museum, 859-987-7274. Louisiana. Alexandria, Alexandria Museum of Art, 318-443-3458. Baton Rouge, Capitol Park, a Louisiana State Museum, 225-342-5414. Natchitoches, Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum, a Louisiana State Museum, 318-357-2492. Baton Rouge, LSU Museum of Art, Shaw Center for the Arts, 225-389-7200. Lafayette, Paul and Lulu Hilliard University Art Museum, 337-482-2278. New Orleans, 1850 House, a Louisiana State Museum, 504-524-9118. New Orleans, Cabildo, a Louisiana State Museum, 504-568-6968. New Orleans, Herman Grima/Gallier Historic Houses, 504-525-5661. New Orleans, The Historic New Orleans Collection, 504-523-4662. New Orleans, Madame John's Legacy, a Louisiana State Museum, 504-568-6968. New Orleans, Ogden Museum of Southern Art, 504-539-9650. New Orleans, Old U.S. Mint, a Louisiana State Museum, 504-568-6993. New Orleans, Presbyterian, a Louisiana State Museum, 504-568-6968. Patterson, Louisiana State Museum Patterson, 985-399-1268. Thibodaux, E.D. White House, a Louisiana State Museum, 985-447-0915. Maine. Bangor, University of Maine Museum of Art, 207-561-3350. Bar Harbor, Abbey Museum, 207-288-3519. Brunswick, Bowdoin College Museum of Art, 207-725-3275. Kennebunk, The Brick Store Museum, 207-985-4802. Rockland, Farnsworth Art Museum, 207-596-6457. Seal Cove, Seal Cove Auto Museum, 207-244-9242. Searsport, Penobscot Marine Museum, 207-548-2529. Maryland. Annapolis, Elizabeth Myers Mitchell Gallery, St. John's College, 410-626-2556. Baltimore, the Baltimore Museum of Art, 443-573-1700. Cambridge, Heritage Museums and Gardens of Dorchester, 410-228-7953. Easton, Academy Art Museum, 410-822-2787. Hagerstown, Washington County Museum of Fine Art, 301-739-5727. St. Mary's City, Historic St. Mary's City Museum, 240-895-4990. Salisbury, the Ward Museum of Wildfowl Art / Salisbury University, 410-742-4988. Silver Spring, Pyramid Atlantic Arts Center, 301-608-9101. Massachusetts Museums. Acton, the Discovery Museums, 978-264-4200x35. Adams, Susan B. Anthony Birthplace Museum, 413-743-7121. Andover, Addison Gallery of American Art, 978-749-4015. Arlington, Cyrus Dolan Art Museum, 781-641-0747. Beverly, Beverly Historical Society, 978-922-1186. Boston, Norma Jean Calderwood Gallery at the Boston Athenaeum, 617-227-0270. Brockton, Fuller Craft Museum, 508-588-6000. Cambridge, Harvard Art Museums, the Fogg, Bush Riesinger and Arthur M. Sackler Museums. 617-495-0534. Clinton, the Museum of Russian Icons, 978-598-5000. Concord, Concord Museum, 978-369-9763. Edgartown, Martha's Vineyard Museum, 508-627-4441. Falmouth, Highfield Hall and Gardens, 508-495-1878. Falmouth, Museums on the Green, 508-548-4857. Fitchburg, Fitchburg Art Museum, 978-345-4207. Framingham, Danforth Museum of Art, 508-620-0050. Harvard, Fruitlands Museum, 978-456-3924x289. Lenox, The Mount, 413-551-5111. Lexington, Lexington Arts and Crafts Society, 781-862-9696. Lexington, Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library, 781-861-6559. Lincoln, De Cordova Sculpture Park and Museum, 781-259-8355. Lowell, American Textile History Museum, 978-441-0400. Marblehead, Marblehead Museum, 781-631-1768. Needham, Needham Historical Society, 781-455-8860. New Bedford, New Bedford Art Museum/Artworks, 508-961-3072. New Bedford, New Bedford Whaling Museum, 508-997-0046. Newton, Jackson Homestead and Museum, Durant Kenrick House, 617-796-1450. North Andover, the Museum of Printing, 978-686-1483. Pittsfield, Berkshire Museum, 413-443-7171. Pittsfield, Hancock Shaker Village, 413-443-0188. Salem, Peabody Essex Museum, 866-745-1876. Sandwich, Heritage Museums and Gardens, 508-888-3300. Springfield, Springfield Museums, 800-625-7738. Stockbridge, Berkshire Botanical Garden, 413-298-3926. Stockbridge, Norman Rockwell Museum, 413-298-4100. Westford, Westford Museum of the Westford Historical Society, Inc., 978-692-5550. Williamstown, Clark Art Institute, 413-458-2303. Worcester, Worcester Art Museum, 508-799-4406. Michigan. Ann Arbor, Kelsey Museum of Archaeology, 734-764-9304. Ann Arbor, University of Michigan Museum of Art, 734-764-0395. Bloomfield Hills, Cranbrook Art Museum, 248-645-3320. Dearborn, Arab American National Museum, 313-582-2266. Detroit, Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, 313-494-5872. Detroit, Detroit Institute of Arts, 313-833-7900. Detroit, Museum of Contemporary Art Detroit, MOCAD, 313-832-6622. East Lansing, the Eli and Edith Broad Art Museum, 517-353-9836. Flint, Flint Institute of Arts, 810-234-1695. Grand Haven, Tri-Cities Historical Museum, 616-842-0700. Grand Rapids, Grand Rapids Art Museum, 616-831-1000. Jackson, Ella Sharp Museum of Art History, 517-787-2933. Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo Institute of Arts, 269-349-7775. Marquette, the Devos Art Museum at Northern Michigan University, 906-227-2235. Muskegon, Muskegon Museum of Art, 231-720-2570. Rockford, Rockford Area Museum, 616-866-2235. Saginaw, Saginaw Art Museum, 989-754-2491. St. Joseph, Krasl Art Center, 269-983-0271. University Center, Marshall M. Fredericks Sculpture Museum, 989-964-7125. Minnesota. Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Institute of Arts, 888-642-2787. Minneapolis, Museum of Russian Art, 612-821-9045. Minneapolis, Walker Art Center, 612-375-7600. Rochester, Rochester Art Center, 507-282-8629. Mississippi. Biloxi, or O'Keefe Museum of Art, 228-374-5547. Jackson, Mississippi Museum of Art, 601-960-1515. Laurel, Lauren Rogers Museum of Art, 601-649-6374. Ocean Springs, Walter Anderson Museum of Art, 228-872-3164. Oxford, the University of Mississippi Museum and Historic Houses, 662-915-7073. Tupelo, Gumtree Museum of Art, 662-844-2787. Missouri. Columbia, Museum of Art and Archaeology, 573-882-3591. Fulton, National Churchill Museum, 573-592-5369. Kansas City, American Jazz Museum, 816-474-8463. Kansas City, Kemper Museum of Contemporary Art, 816-753-5784. Kansas City, the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art, 816-751-1278. La Plata, Silver Rails Gallery and Memorial Library, 660-956-0460. St. Louis, Contemporary Art Museum St. Louis, 314-535-0770. St. Louis, Mildred Lane Kemper Art Museum, 314-935-4523. St. Louis, the St. Louis Art Museum, 314-721-0072. St. Louis, World Chess Hall of Fame, 314-367-9243 extension 104. Springfield, Springfield Art Museum, 417-837-5700. Montana. Billings, Yellowstone Art Museum, 406-256-6804. Great Falls, CM. Russell Museum, 406-727-8787. Great Falls, Merck Steam Tractor Museum, 307-751-2051. Missoula, Missoula Art Museum, 406-728-0447. Nebraska. David City, Bone Creek Museum of Agrarian Art, 402-367-4488. Kearney, Museum of Nebraska Art, 308-865-8559. Lincoln, International Quilt Study Center and Museum, 402-472-6549. Lincoln, Sheldon Museum of Art, 402-472-2461. Nebraska City, Craigle Windmill Factory Museum, 402-873-1078. Norfolk, Norfolk Arts Center, 402-371-7199. Omaha, Joslin Art Museum, 402-342-3300. Nevada. Las Vegas, the Neon Museum, 702-387-6366. Reno, Nevada Museum of Art, 775-329-3333. Reno, Sierra Arts Gallery, 775-329-2787. Reno, University Galleries, 775 784-6658. New Hampshire. Concord, New Hampshire Historical Society, 603-228-6688. Enfield, Enfield Shaker Museum, 603-632-4346. Hanover, Hood Museum of Art, 603-646-2808. Lebanon, Ava Gallery and Art Center, 603-448-3117. Manchester, Courier Museum of Art, 603-669-6144. Peterborough, Mariposa Museum and World Culture Center, 603-924-4555. New Jersey. Clinton, Hunterdon Art Museum, 908-735-8415. Freehold, Monmouth County Historical Association, 732-462-1466. Lincroft, the Monmouth Museum, 732-747-2266. Millville, Wheaton Arts and Cultural Center, 856-825-6800, extension 110. Montclair, Montclair Art Museum, 973-746-5555. Morris Plains, the Stickley Museum at Craftsman Farms, 973-540-0311. Morristown, McCulloch Hall Historical Museum, 973-538-2404 EXT10. Morristown, Morris Museum, 973-971-3700. Newark, the Newark Museum, 973-596-6550. Princeton, Princeton University Art Museum, 609-258-3788. Summit, Visual Arts Center of New Jersey, 908-273-9121. New Mexico. Albuquerque, the Albuquerque Museum of Art and History, 505-842-0111. Albuquerque, University of New Mexico Art Museum, 505-277-4001. Bernalillo, Coronado Historic Site, 505-867-5351. Bernalillo, Jemez Historic Site, 575-829-3530. Bonito River, Fort Stanton, 575-258-5702. Fort Sumner, Bosque Redondo Memorial at Fort Sumner, 575-355-2537. Lincoln, Lincoln Historic Site, 575-653-4372. Radium Springs, Fort Selden, 575-526-8911. San Antonio, El Camino Real Historic Trail Site, 575-854-3600. Santa Fe, Center for Contemporary Arts, 505-982-1338. Santa Fe, Georgia O'Keeffe Museum, 505-946-1000. Santa Fe, IAIA Museum of Contemporary Native Arts, 505-983-8900. Santa Fe, Museum of International Folk Art, 505-476-1200. Santa Fe, New Mexico History Museum/Palace of the Governors, 505-476-5200. Santa Fe, New Mexico Museum of Art, 505-476-5041. Santa Fe, Museum of Indian Arts and Culture, 505-476-1250. Santa Fe, Site Santa Fe, 505-989-1199. Taos, Harwood Museum of Art of the University of New Mexico, 575-758-9826. New York. Albany, Albany Institute of History and Art, 518-463-4478. Albany, Irish American Heritage Museum, 518-432-6598. Ballston Spa, Brookside Museum, 518-885-4000. Blue Mountain Lake, Adirondack Museum, 518-352-7311. Buffalo, Albright Knox Art Gallery, 716-882-8700. Buffalo, Birchfield Penny Art Center / Buffalo State College, 716-878-6011. Centerport, the Suffolk County Vanderbilt Museum and Planetarium, 631-854-5579. Cooperstown, the Fenimore Art Museum / the Farmers Museum, 607-547-1400. Corning, the Rockwell Museum, 607-937-5386. Coxsackie, Bronx Museum, 518-731-6490. East Hampton, Guildhall of East Hampton, 631-324-0806. East Meredith, Hanford Mills Museum, 607-278-5744. Elizabethtown, Adirondack History Museum / Essex County Historical Society, 518-873-6466. Elmira, Arnott Art Museum, 607-734-3697. Glens Falls, the Hyde Collection, 518-792-1761. Hempstead, Hofstra University Museum, 516-463-5672. House Cave, Iroquois Indian Museum, 518-296-8949. Hudson, Fasney Museum of Firefighting, 518-822-1875. Huntington, Heckscher Museum of Art, 631-351-3250. Ithaca, Cornell Plantations, 607-255-2400. Ithaca, Herbert F. Johnson Museum of Art / Cornell University, 607-255-6464. Kadena, Kadena Museum of Art, 914-232-9555. Kinderhook, Columbia County Historical Society, 518-758-9265. Long Island City, the Noguchi Museum, 718-204-7088. Long Island City, Sculpture Center, 718-361-1750. New Lebanon, Shaker Museum. Mount Lebanon, 518-794-9100. New Paltz, Historic Huguenot Street, 845-255-1660. New Paltz, Samuel Dorsky Museum of Art / SUNY at New Paltz, 845-257-3844. New York, American Folk Art Museum, 212-265-1040. New York, the Asia Society, 212-288-6400. New York, China Institute, 212-744-8181. New York, El Museo del Barrio, 212-831-7272. New York, the Frick Collection, 212-288-0700. New York, Leslie Lohman Museum of Gay and Lesbian Art, 212-431-2609. New York, Museum of American Finance, 212-908-4110. New York, Museum of American Illustration, 212-838-2560. New York, Museum of Arts and Design, 212-299-7777. New York, Museum of Chinese in America, 212-619-4785. New York, Museum of the City of New York, 212-534-1672. New York, Rubin Museum of Art, 212-620-5000. New York, Salmagundi Club, 212-255-7740. New York, the Studio Museum in Harlem, 212-864-5444. 4500. Ogdensburg, Frederick Remington Art Museum, 315-393-2425. Oneida, Oneida Community Mansion House, 315-363-0745. Peekskill, Hudson Valley Center for Contemporary Art, 914-788-0100. Plattsburgh, Champlain Valley Transportation Museum, 518-566-7575. Purchase, Neuberger Museum of Art, 914-251-6100. Rochester, Memorial Art Gallery, 585-276-8900. Saratoga Springs, Saratoga Automobile Museum, 518-587-1935. Saratoga Springs, Tang Teaching Museum at Skidmore College, 518-580-8080. Shahari, Old Stone Fort Museum, 518-295-7192. Syracuse, Everson Museum of Art, 315-474-6064. Utica, Munson Williams Proctor Arts Institute, 315-797-0000. Watermill, Parish Art Museum, 631-283-2118. White Plains, Arts Westchester, 914-428-4220. Yonkers, Hudson River Museum, 914-963-4550. North Carolina. Asheville, Asheville Art Museum, 828-253-3227. Blowing Rock, Blowing Rock Art and History Museum, 828-295-9099. Boone, Turchin Center for the Visual Arts / Appalachian State University, 828-262-3017. Chapel Hill, Ackland Art Museum, 919-966-5736, 919-962-0837. Charlotte, Bechtler Museum of Modern Art, 704-353-9200. Charlotte, The Mint Museum, 704-337-2000. Durham, the Nasher Museum of Art / Duke University, 919-684-5135. Greensboro, Green Hill Center for North Carolina Art, 336-333-7460. Greensboro, Weatherspoon Art Museum / University of North Carolina, 336-334-5770. Greenville, the Greenville Museum of Art, 252-758-1946. Highlands, the Bascom, 828-526-4949. Raleigh, Kim Raleigh, 919-513-0946. Raleigh, Joel Lane Museum House, Inc. 919-833-3431. Raleigh, North Carolina Museum of Art, 919-839-6262. Salisbury, Waterworks Visual Arts Center, 704-636-1882. Statesville, Iredell Museums, 704-873-4734. Wilmington, Cameron Art Museum, 910-395-5999. Wilmington, Cape Fear Museum, 910-798-4370. Winston-Salem, Museum of Anthropology, Wake Forest University, 336-758-5282. Winston-Salem, Reynolda House Museum of American Art, 336-758-5150. North Dakota. Fargo, Plains Art Museum, 701-232-3821. Ohio. Akron, Hauer House at the University of Akron, 330-972-6909. Akron, Stan Highwet Hall and Gardens, 330-836-5533. Beechwood, Maltz Museum of Jewish Heritage, 216-593-0575. Cincinnati, Cincinnati Art Museum, 513-721 Arts. Cincinnati, Lois and Richard Rosenthal Center for Contemporary Art, 513-345-8422. Cincinnati, National Underground Railroad Freedom Center, 1-877-648-4838. Cincinnati, Taft Museum of Art, 513-241-0343. Cleveland, Cleveland Artists Foundation, 216-227-9507. Cleveland, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum, 216-515-8425. Cleveland, Western Reserve Historical Society, 216-721-5722. Columbus, Columbus Museum of Art, 614-221-6801, 614-221-4848, 24HR Info. Columbus, Wexner Center for the Arts/Ohio State University, 614-292-0330. Dayton, the Dayton Art Institute, 937-223-5277. Oxford, Miami University Art Museum, 513-529-2232. Portsmouth, Southern Ohio Museum and Cultural Center, 740-354-5629. Springfield, the Springfield Museum of Art, 937-325-4673. Springfield, the Westcott House, 937-327-9291. Steubenville, Historic Fort Steuben, 740-283-1787. Toledo, Toledo Museum of Art, 419-255-8000. Worthington, Peggy R. McConnell Arts Center of Worthington, 614-431-0329. Youngstown, the Butler Institute of American Art, 330-743-1107. Oklahoma. Bartlesville, Price Tower Arts Center, 918-336-4949. Claremore, Will Rogers Memorial Museums, 918-341-0719. Duncan, Chisholm Trail Heritage Center, 580-252-6692. Grove, Harbor Village Museum, 918-786-6446. Idabel, Museum of the Red River, 580-286-3616. Norman, Fred Jones Jr. Museum of Art, 405-325-3272. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma City Museum of Art, 405-236-3100. Ponca City, Ponca City Art Center, 580-765-9746. Shawnee, Mabigara Museum of Art, 405-878-5300. Tulsa, Arts and Humanities Council of Tulsa Hardesty Arts Center, AHA, 918-584-3333. Tulsa, Gilcrease Museum, 918-596-2700. Tulsa, Philbrook Museum of Art, 918-749-7941, 800-324-7941. Tulsa, Woody Guthrie Center, 918-574-2710. Oregon. Baker City, Crossroads Carnegie Art Center, 541-523-5369. Corvallis, The Arts Center, 541-754-1551. Eugene, Jordan Schnitzer Museum of Art/University of Oregon, 541-346-3027. Eugene, Shelton McMurphy Johnson House, 541-484-0808. Eugene, University of Oregon Museum of Natural and Cultural History, 541-346-3024. Pendleton, Tamist Slicht Cultural Institute, 541-429-7700. Portland, Museum of Contemporary Craft, 503-223-2654. Salem, Holly Ford Museum of Art, Willamette University, 503-370-6855. Salem, Historic Deepwood Estate, 503-363-1825. Warm Springs, the Museum at Warm Springs, 541-553-3331. Pennsylvania. Allentown, Allentown Art Museum, 610-432-4333. Allentown, America on Wheels Museum, 610-432-4200. Altoona, Quaint Corner Children's Discovery Center, 814-944-6830. Bryn Athyn, Glencairn Museum, 267-502-2600. Chadsford, the Brandywine River Museum of Art, 610-388-2700. Coatesville, National Iron and Steel Heritage Museum, 610-384-9282. Doylestown, James A. Michener Art Museum, 215-340-9800. Elkins Park, Beth Shalom Synagogue Visitor Center, 215-887-1342. Greensburg, the Westmoreland Museum of American Art, 724-837-1500. Harrisburg, Susquehanna Art Museum, 717-233-8668. Jenkintown, Abington Art Center, 215-887-4882. Lancaster, Pennsylvania Guild of Craftsmen, 717-431-8706. Meadville, Crawford County Historical Society / Baldwin Reynolds House, 814-333-9882. Media, Greater Philadelphia Region, Tyler Arboretum, 610-566-9134. Philadelphia, Ebenezer Maxwell Mansion, 215-438-1861. Philadelphia, Institute of Contemporary Art / University of Pennsylvania, 215-898-5911. Philadelphia, National Constitution Center, 215-409-6600. Philadelphia, National Museum of American Jewish History, 215-923-3811. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, 215-972-7600. Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Art Alliance, 215-545-4302. Philadelphia, Philadelphia History Museum at the Atwater Kent, 215-685-4830. Philadelphia, Philadelphia's Magic Gardens, 215-733-0390. Philadelphia, Rosenbach Museum and Library, 215-732-1600. Philadelphia, Simeone Automotive Museum, 215-365-7233. Philadelphia, University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology, 215-898-4000. Philadelphia, Wagner Free Institute of Science, 215-763-6529. Philadelphia, Woodmere Art Museum, 215-247-0476. Pittsburgh, Frick Art and Historical Center, 412-371-0600. Pittsburgh, Mattress Factory, 412-231-3169. Reading, Reading Public Museum, 610-371-5850. Scranton, Everhart Museum of Natural History, Science and Art, 570-346-7186. Valley Forge, Valley Forge National Historical Park, 610-783-1073. Waynesburg, Greene County Historical Society, 724-627-3204. Rhode Island. Newport, Newport Art Museum and Art Association, 401-848-8200. Providence, the RISD Museum of Art, 401-454-6500. South Carolina. Columbia, Columbia Museum of Art, 803-799-2810. Columbia, South Carolina Confederate Relic Room and Military Museum, 803-737-8094. Columbia, South Carolina State Museum, 803-898-4978. Fort Mill, Fort Mill History Museum, 803-802-3646. Greenville, Bob Jones University Museum and Gallery, 864-770-1331. Greenville, Upcountry History Museum, 864-467-3100. Myrtle Beach, Franklin G. Burroughs Simeon B. Chapin Art Museum, 843-238-2510. Rock Hill Culture and Heritage Museums, 803-329-2121. Sumter, Sumter County Museum, 803-775-0908. South Dakota. Rapid City, The Journey Museum, 605-394-6923. Vermilion, National Music Museum, 605-677-5306. Tennessee. Chattanooga, Hunter Museum of American Art, 423-267-0968. Clarksville, Customs House Museum and Cultural Center, 931-648-5780. Cleveland, Museum Center at 5 IVE Points, 423-339-5745. Knoxville, Knoxville Museum of Art, 865-525-6101. Memphis, the Dixon Gallery and Gardens, 901-761-5250. Memphis, Memphis Brooks Museum of Art, 901-544-6200. Nashville, Frist Center for the Visual Arts, 615-744-3325. Nashville, the Tennessee State Museum, 615-741-2692. Texas. Abilene, the Grace Museum, 325-673-4587. Albany, the Old Jail Art Center, 325-762-2269. Angleton, Brazoria County Historical Museum, 979-864-1208. Austin, the Contemporary Austin, 512-495-9224. Austin, Blanton Museum of Art / University of Texas at Austin, 512-471-7324. Austin, Bob Bullock Texas State History Museum, 512-936-8746. Austin, Harry Ransom Center, 512-471-8944. Austin, Umlauf Sculpture Garden and Museum, 512-445-5582. Buffalo Gap, Buffalo Gap Historic Village, 325-572-3365. Corpus Christi, Art Museum of South Texas, 361-825-3500. Dallas, Crow Collection of Asian Art, 214-979-6430. Dallas, Dallas Holocaust Museum / Center for Education and Tolerance, 214-741-7500. Fort Davis, McDonald Observatory, 432-426-3640. Fort Worth, Kimball Art Museum, 817-332-8451. Fort Worth, Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth, 817-738-9215. Houston, Blaffer Art Museum, 713-743-9521. Houston, Contemporary Arts Museum Houston, 713-284-8270. Houston, Holocaust Museum Houston, 713-942-8000. Houston, Houston Maritime Museum, 713-666-1910. Houston, Lawndale Art Center, 713-528-5858. Houston, The Menil Collection, 713-525-9400. Houston, Rothko Chapel, 713-524-9839. Kerrville, Kerr Arts and Cultural Center, 830-895-2911. La Grange, Texas Quilt Museum, 979-968-3104. Longview, Gregg County Historical Museum, 903-753-5840. Longview, Longview Museum of Fine Arts, 903-753-8103. Midland, Museum of the Southwest, 432-683-2882. Orange, Shangri-La Botanical Gardens and Nature Center, 409-670-9113. Orange, Stark Museum of Art, 409-886-2787. Orange, the W. H. Stark House, 409-883-0871. San Antonio, Briscoe Western Art Museum, 210-299-4499. San Antonio, McNay Art Museum, 210-824-5368. San Antonio, San Antonio Museum of Art, Sama, 210-978-8101. Temple, Temple Railroad and Heritage Museum, 254-298-5172. Tyler, Tyler Museum of Art, 903-595-1001. Washington, Star of the Republic Museum / Washington on the Brazos Park Association, 979-830-1824. Utah. Moab, Museum of Moab, 435-259-7985. Salt Lake City, Utah Museum of Fine Arts / University of Utah, 801-581-7332. Vermont. Bennington, Bennington Center for the Arts, 802-442-7158. Bennington, Bennington Museum, 802-447-1571. Brattleboro, Brattleboro Museum and Art Center, 802-257-0124. Burlington, Fleming Museum of Art / University of Vermont, 802-656-0750. Manchester, the American Museum of Fly Fishing, 802-362-3300. Manchester, Hildene, the Lincoln Family Home, 802-362-1788. Manchester, Southern Vermont Arts Center, 802-362-1405. Middlebury, Middlebury College Museum of Art, 802-443-2291. Shelburne, Shelburne Museum, 802-985-3346. Virginia. Abingdon, William King Museum, 276-628-5005. Arlington, Arlington Historical Museum / Arlington Historical Society, 703-942-9247. Charlottesville, the Fralin Museum of Art at the University of Virginia, 434-924-3592. Danville, Danville Museum of Fine Arts and History, 434-793-5644. Lexington, George C. Marshall Museum, 540-463-2083. Manassas, the Manassas Museum, 703-368-1873. Manchester, Southern Vermont Arts Center, 802-362-1405. Middleburg, National Sporting Library and Museum, 540-681-6542. Newport News, Peninsula Fine Arts Center, 757-596-8175. Portsmouth, the Portsmouth Museums, 757-393-8983. Richmond, American Civil War Museum, 804-780-1865. Richmond, Virginia Center for Architecture, 804-644-3041. Richmond, Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, 804-340-1400. Richmond, Wilton House Museum, 804-282-5936. Roanoke, Taubman Museum of Art, 540-204-4119. Virginia Beach, Virginia Museum of Contemporary Art, MoCA, 757-425-0000. Williamsburg, Muscarel Museum of Art, 757-221-2707. Washington. Bainbridge Island, Bainbridge Island Museum of Art, 360-842-4451. Bellevue, Bellevue Arts Museum, 425-519-0750. Bellingham, Whatcom Museum, 360-778-8930. Coupeville, Coupeville Arts Center, 1-866-678-3396. Everett, Shack Art Center, 425-259-5050. Friday Harbor, San Juan Islands Museum of Art, IMA, 360-370-5050. Gig Harbor, Harbor History Museum, 253-858-6722. Goldendale, Maryhill Museum of Art, 509-773-3733. Ilwaco, Columbia Pacific Heritage Museum, 360-642-3446. La Conner, Museum of Northwest Art, 360-466-4446. Port Orchard, Sydney Museum and Arts Association, 360-876-3693. Richland, Hanford Reach Interpretive Center, 509-943-4100. Seattle, Burke Museum of Natural History and Culture, 206-543-5590. Seattle, EMP Museum, 206-770-2702. Seattle, Fry Art Museum, 206-622-9250. Seattle, Henry Art Gallery, 206-543-2280. Seattle, Museum of History and Industry, MOHE. Seattle, Northwest African American Museum, 206-518-6000. Seattle, Wing-Luke Museum of the Asian Pacific American Experience, 206-623-5124. Spokane, Northwest Museum of Arts and Culture, 509-456-3931, 509-363-5315, hotline. Stevenson, Columbia Gorge Interpretive Center, 509-427-8211. Tacoma, Children's Museum of Tacoma, 253-627-6031. Tacoma, Museum of Glass, 253-284-4750. Tacoma, Tacoma Art Museum, 253-272-4258. Vancouver, Clark County Historical Museum, 360-993-5679. Vashon, Vashon Maury Island Heritage Association, 206-463-7808. Walla Walla, Kirkman House Museum, 509-529-4373. West Virginia. Charleston, The Clay Center, 304-561-3575. Wisconsin. Appleton, The Trout Museum of Art, 920-733-4089. Kenosha, The Civil War Museum, 262-653-4141. Kenosha, Dinosaur Discovery Museum, 262-653-4450. Kenosha, Kenosha Public Museum, 262-653-4455. 4140. Madison, Chazen Museum of Art, 608-263-2246. Madison, Madison Museum of Contemporary Art, 608-257-0158. Manitowoc, RAR West Art Museum, 920-686-3090. Milwaukee, Milwaukee Art Museum, 414-224-3200. Neenah, Bergstrom Mahler Museum, 920-751-4658. Racine, Racine Art Museum, 262-638-8300. Sheboygan, John Michael Kohler Arts Center, 920-458-6144. Wyoming. Bighorn, the Brinton Museum, 307-672-3173. Jackson Hole, Art Association of Jackson Hole, 307-733-6379.